It's not dementia that takes your dignity, it's how people treat you once they know. Hello and welcome back to the Able to Care podcast. I'm your host, Andy Baker, and today's conversation is about friendship, courage, creativity, and what it means to live well with dementia. I'm joined by two guests whose bond has inspired readers and audiences across the UK and beyond. Peter Berry, who lives with young onset Alzheimer's, and Deb Bunt, his close friend and co-author. Together they've written Slow Puncture and Walk With Me, and a new book, Patching the Puncture, is on its way. Peter's use of metaphors in his books is stunning. His cycling adventures on a penny farthing are legendary, and the way Deb quietly supports Peter as his external memory reminds us that friendship can be one of the most powerful forms of care. Together, they've shown that dementia isn't the end, it's a different way to live. First off, thank you so much for joining me, both of you. It's an absolute pleasure to have you on, both to Deb and to Peter as well. So thank you.
Well, thank you very much for the opportunity to be here. It's always good.
And first, I want to say I've just finished listening to your first book, which is Slow Puncture. Genuinely enjoyed it. I thought it was really good. We'll be talking about some bits as we go through the questions. But there is definitely a poetry to the way that you've written, Deb, and also Peter, you speak on a day-to-day basis. So I thoroughly enjoyed it, and there was some stuff that really resonated with me and I found beautiful. So so thank you so much for that. I'm excited about the next one. That I'll read the whole series now. That's it. You've got me hooked. So we're going to start off diving in. Obviously, when your diagnosis first came in, Peter, it must have hit you hard. How did life start to shift from that moment, kind of emotionally, practically, even in the way that people treated you?
Okay, the first thing I will say is that after the diagnosis, we as a family kept very quiet about it. We didn't actually tell anybody. The reason behind that was that I felt embarrassed, I felt ashamed, and I felt as though I didn't want people to treat me any differently. As I'd had experience with my father, who had Alzheimer's for 25 years, and I didn't want to go down that journey that he went down. So for the first 12 months, we as a family kept very, very quiet about it, which I now realise was a very silly thing to do. It was the wrong way to do it. It seemed like the right idea at the time. The other thing was that I was going through, I suppose, battling my personal demon, this demon that was inside my head. And it was getting the better of me, and I was getting quite depressed with it because I had seen and I had heard of what would happen to me and how the thing would progress and all the rest of it. So that's sort of where we were for the first year. Then things started to change after that.
Right. Okay. Did you want to expand on that at all, Deb, from your point of view? Also, you met Peter later, didn't you?
Yeah. I met Peter probably a couple of years into the diagnosis. So I've only ever known Peter with memory issues.
Yeah. So is it that early part of the journey you weren't privy to so much, but that was and that's something you mentioned in your book quite a lot, Peter, of kind of that the showman that I'm sure we'll refer to later, as far as how you referred to yourself, of nobody would have known unless they really knew you. One of the things. Sorry.
The actual turning point for me was at the lowest point that I realised that nobody was helping us, and that I knew what it was like to be in the situation that I was and we were. Could I help other people to live differently? Could I help people understand what this was about? And could I stop people from going through the year of, which I think I could quite safely say was hell, going through the same hell that I went through? Now, what that did actually it gave me a sense of purpose. It gave me a sense of being, a sense of worth, which over the 12 months had been taken away, gave me something to battle with. And that's how things changed from the depression and keeping quiet to the beginnings of where we are now. And what I actually did, and I didn't realise that at the time, but my future at that point in time had been cut away. It had been stripped. It was just a very bland landscape. What I started to do was I planted myself a new future. All I had to do was nurture it and help it to grow. And that was the bit that made me go forward to where I am now, if that makes sense.
It does. And it reminded me of you were saying that there about a metaphor that I think is in your, well, I remember is in your book, which is about the throwing the pebble into the water, and the pebble has a D written on it and you throw it into the water. It's a ripple effect that you realized how it was affecting other people, even though it was your stone to bear kind of thing. It was that knock-on effect from that. And I remember that in being quite emotive when I was listening to that. Now, I know you've spoken, and it was one of the quotes that really resonated with me, but you've spoken about the importance of not being defined by dementia. What does that look like day to day? And I suppose that's to both of you really as well.
Well, do you want to answer that one first, Dave? And that's because that's a complicated question, and I thought I'd let her set the definition. Well, you see what I did then?
I think from my perspective, as Peter's friend, not his partner, or inverted commas, for me it looks like I want to protect him and make sure nobody knows. So for me, it's about filling in the colour. If somebody comes up to us and he obviously doesn't know who they are, to try to enable Peter to join the conversation seamlessly so people don't define him through his dementia. They just see him as, oh, he's quite a funny guy. He was fun to talk to. If it's defined through his Alzheimer's or his memory, people's attitude changes. And I hate watching that. I hate watching the change, hearing the change of tone and people's body language change. I don't want Peter to be defined by his memory issues. I want Peter to be defined by his personality. So my job, I think, is to help him know, to root him in the present, where we are and who's talking to us, because his personality is much nicer than any dementia definition.
Yeah. I think I love the. I think I include it in the introduction as well. You being referred to as external memory, which is
a lot of things, Andy. What he calls me,
which is my little plug-in and save device. You see,
USB stick.
That's it. Yes.
I am his external memory, and it's a job I do with joy, because then Peter's not being defined by his dementia. It makes perfect sense.
The quote, and I actually did a post on this because it really genuinely affected me. I thought it was such an amazing way of putting it. I won't butcher it now because I can't remember it immediately off the top of my head, but there's a very powerful quote about dignity within that first book that you've written, which is that it's not the dementia that takes your dignity away, but it's how people respond to that diagnosis that takes it away. And I wonder how that idea has shown up in your kind of journey, especially with the public work that you've both done together as well.
Well, one thing that I've learned is that the dignity part of it, and I try to try to explain things to people so that people can understand what it's like. Now, the dignity side of things, having this condition, we try to hide it as people because we don't want to be treated differently. So I put it to people like this, that having dementia, you wear a very shabby coat. It's a very old coat. It has all the cuffs are frayed. It has a lot of patches. It's not very clean, and it's a bit of a mess. And people see you in this dementia coat and don't like you in it. They treat you differently. You're a little bit, I wouldn't say an outcast, but you are different in their head. Now, if you don't wear that coat and you wear a very smart coat with a nice collar and everything is all nice and prim, people see the nice coat and they treat you accordingly. What people are not doing is they're not seeing the person underneath the coat. It took me a long while to wear the shabby coat in public and try to get people to understand that whether I have a very expensive coat on or whether I have a shabby coat on, the person wearing the coat is no different. It's just the coat that is different. So the label of dementia is different to not having the label of dementia. I am still the same. When you start explaining this to people as a coat, they then somehow work it out. The actual fact doesn't matter what he wears. He is the same person. So I will treat him the same. And that's how I think dignity and dementia works in people's heads. Because you have dementia, they will treat you differently. And that's as simple as that. But they shouldn't. Because people with dementia have lived, loved, laughed, cried. They have all, some people have done some fantastic things in their lives. So why treat them differently because their memory is bad or they get confused or something's not quite right? Why not just treat them as the people that they were and they are? And you'll get a lot more out of them. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, and I think what Peter doesn't know, obviously, because he hasn't read Slow Puncture or the new book.
No, it's a rubbish.
That's a different discussion.
Oh, okay, sorry.
There's, I used his analogy of the shabby coat in the new book, and I used it when he first said it, and then 3 years later, how he feels about it and how he is letting the coat going out in that shabby coat because why shouldn't he? But I was going to say something else really profound, and it's my mind.
This is catchy.
I remember. It's also, I think, incumbent on us to accept those changes, accept the shabby coat, accept whatever coats Peter wants to wear, and see and change how we react in order to accommodate the fact that his memory is poor. And that, I hope, retains your dignity because we change, you can't change. You're still treated as Peter, my friend, as opposed to Peter with a memory issue.
Yeah.
So it's the onus is on us to work with Peter to keep his dignity. Because I would hate it if people talk to me in a different way or touch my shoulder in a sort of pity or sympathy. Why would anyone do that?
Yeah, the problem is that Peter becomes Peter with dementia. Why can't Peter just still become Peter? Why does it have to change? Yes, the diagnosis is there, but it doesn't really make me a different person. I am still me. My father was still father. And that's just how it should be. And I strongly believe that if we're allowed to be ourselves and allowed to push the boundaries a little bit, do these things, keep active, keep positive about things, we as individuals can't stop dementia, but maybe we can slow its progress down a little bit. A father went for 25 years with his, and I now realise why that was the case. Didn't realise that at the time, but I do now.
I think I love that metaphor, and I think it's a metaphor for life. I don't think it's just one for dementia as well. I think like we're all kind of being able to be your authentic self, no matter who that is in that particular moment, is incredibly empowering, but takes a lot of confidence, self-esteem. I think a lot of people find that really hard on a day-to-day basis. So it's amazing that you've managed to find that part of yourself to go, yeah, I wear a shabby coat and I'm proud.
Yeah,
which is important.
Actually, hearing Peter talk and knowing how he is has helped me accept my failings and my shortcomings or my insecurities and say, you know what, if you don't like it, jog on. This is who I am. Yeah. And it is empowering.
I think the other thing is really it's becoming harder and harder to leave the coat at home. So I suppose I'm forced into wearing it. And because I've been forced into wearing it, I'm accepting it. And others around me have to accept it. And if they don't, well, you know what? with everything that goes on in the world, if somebody's not going to speak to me because I've got dementia, well, so what? And I think that what is dementia is a terrible thing, but can it be a positive? Can it be a gift? Not so much a gift, but can it be something that can be enhanced? Can it be something that can be used? And living in the here and now, the moment, because I don't know what I had for breakfast. I don't know what I did yesterday. I don't know what I did this morning. I don't know what I'm going to do tomorrow. Somehow, I'm very fortunate that I'm living now. And I'm not worrying about what's going to happen tomorrow. This went wrong yesterday or whatever, because you know what? It's not even on my radar anymore. It's not even a blip on my screen. So therefore, is it somehow something that is colourful from something that has become very grey and distorted and hideous? Have I made something of this? And somehow, if we can actually turn these things a little bit to our advantage, poke fun at it, have the best time we can with it, then isn't that what life's really all about?
I love it. That embodies, I have a principle I refer to called GPS. So GPS is how you find your way, and it stands for gratitude, perspective, and service. And it's you just mentioned everything there as far as, finding what to still be grateful for. The perspective of like, hey, there's, worse things happen at sea and I'm still here and I'm still going. And the service, like, how can I make this count for other people? How can I help other people with it? And I think that whole mindset is positive, hugely positive. Now, straight away, you've just embodied there, even the little bit you've been speaking about there, Peter, is you use metaphors in such a moving way, and that's obvious throughout the book. Can you share how metaphors help you to express the hard things to explain, and maybe any others that really resonate with you? Maybe there's Deb, there's some that he's used that really resonate with you as well.
Yeah, I think for me personally, it's simplifying everything so that everybody can understand, and people can't enter my world or the world with memory issues unless they have something to grasp on, some sort of ladder to climb into that world. And for me personally, if I explain these things in such a way that I can understand them, then I'm thinking, well, maybe everybody else can understand them, like filling in the colours and all of these sort of things. It's just really me simplifying what's happening in here and in here for people to understand, not overcomplicating things and just trying to, I suppose, put my feelings and my life into words for people to physically understand and to take a little bit of that knowledge and then use that in their lives. And that just seems to be such a correct way to do things, really.
I don't know about metaphors, but early on in Slow Puncher, I describe how Peter has created the dementia monster to sort of externalise what was going on in his head. So it's not exactly a metaphor, but it's a very vivid way of looking at the diagnosis and how he dealt with it. So the dementia monster is dictating his life at home, but when he goes out, he becomes Peter the cyclist, and the dementia monster is at home, and then you're better able to accept him when you get home. So I don't know if it's literally a metaphor, but it's a vivid description.
Yeah. And I thought that was really good as well, that externalizing it. And you mentioned there the writing, so let's come on to that a little bit. So throughout the first book, those cycling challenges, especially on a penny farthing as well, are absolutely incredible. So what made you decide to take them on, and what did they give you back in return?
Well, when I first decided in the early days after the depression that I needed to show people that people with dementia still achieve things, life wasn't over. It was just going to be different. I'd always been a very keen cyclist, and that was something that I could still achieve very well. So I suppose the bicycle was the compass that gave me direction in my life. That's when I decided that I would challenge myself and my condition and cycle across the country from Wales back to Aldeburgh in Suffolk. And I thought, well, I want to show people that I'm just a normal guy. I can do this. You can walk, run, swim, garden. You can do whatever your compass is. Take whatever you want to give you a direction and use that. And that was the first challenge. And then I thought, well, following on from that, I would see if I could keep doing these challenges and just see where it went, not knowing at that time where it was going to take us and how far it would take us, actually.
So the first challenge Peter did was he'd finished it just as my husband and I moved up to Suffolk. So I didn't know him or anything about the challenge. But the following year, he decided to ride a penny farthing in the 4 counties of East Anglia to prove, I suppose, that not only was it a challenge, you say it took the challenge and raised the bar.
Yeah. Took it to a different level, yeah.
And a penny farthing, if you've ever cycled behind a man on a penny farthing, it's in my sorry?
They look terrifying.
You don't see because you're on it. But because there's no brakes and no freewheel, and sometimes if Peter goes too fast, he has to stick his legs out. It's a really odd thing to be behind. But also the mentally challenging thing is you have to anticipate, do I need to slow down because I have no brakes? Yeah. Can I make it up this hill because I can't stop halfway up? Is a roundabout coming at the end of the road? I need to be wary. So it's not so much the physical challenge, although I'm not minimising that, but I think the mental challenge of having to be so alert, it was quite hard.
Well, I've been riding penny farthers now ever since I was probably in my mid-teens, I suppose, and then I had a long period where I didn't because of family business and all those sort of things, and I wanted to take it and see if I could still do it, and of course I could. So yeah, I thought, well, you know what? Why not? Let's give it a go. And with all my challenges, they've all been extremely challenging for me personally, because I think to myself, well, what is a challenge if it's not challenging? What is the point of it? And we might as well push it to the extreme. And this is what I say about the people with dementia. We can go out of our comfort zones. We can push ourselves. We don't need to be wrapped up in cotton wool, because in actual fact, pushing yourself a little bit and achieving something, it's a little bit exciting. It's a little bit, it's 1 to me and 0 to dementia sort of thing. And that's how I see it. So yeah.
Because what Slow Puncture hasn't described is the subsequent challenges that Peter has done on his penny farthing, which these things are recounted in the new book. But that one challenge across the 4 counties, there's only one thing Peter's done, and I won't say the other things. I shall keep it dangling there so people want to read the new book. But it is an incredible achievement what he's done.
Oh, thank you.
And you don't know, do you?
No, I've got no idea.
You'll take the appreciation though, Peter, when I can tell. Yeah.
You always feel as though other people have got the edge on you. It's just not good enough.
It sounds like spending time outside and taking on something difficult, that constant pushing forward is something important. And I take it that sense of movement, momentum is something you're applying to day-to-day life as well.
Yeah, I'm a very great believer now in that if we keep the bit from our eyebrows down healthy, it must help the bit from our eyebrows up. That's, it's got to work that way. And I think that getting out and doing different things, it's something that I'm very fortunate to have the time to do now. And I think what is time if we can't use it wisely? And that's what I try and do. And I think it does help keep us mentally active. It does help. The medication in all things, especially dementia, medication can do so much. It can do a small amount, I feel. But I also feel that we are very much responsible for ourselves. Where does the buck stop? Us. And if we're going to keep pushing and if we're going to do the best we can, then that will reflect, I think, on how much longer we've got. If we sit in a darkened room, we don't get involved, we don't socialise, then I think that the decline will be much quicker. And I do believe that keeping active will help to just soften the blow a little bit of dementia, make it a little less dementia-y.
So I think you've already kind of mentioned this a little bit in the answers you've just given, but I think there's a real tendency for people to assume that life stops after diagnosis. What would you want those people to understand about what's still possible?
Well, firstly, I would say to people, and this is something that I didn't realise at the time of diagnosis because I wasn't told. And in actual fact, we don't need to be told what I'm now going to say, but for me, I did need to be told because it didn't work. So after my diagnosis, it took me a year to understand that when I had my diagnosis, we'll say at 10 o'clock in the morning, I came out of the doctor's surgery a changed person. In my head, I was completely different. But the reality was, I was the same person I was when I walked into that surgery. It only took 15 minutes to get a diagnosis. I physically hadn't changed. And I was the same person. I could still cycle, run, garden, have a slice of cake, have a laugh. I could still do all these things. But in my head, I couldn't do them. Now, if a doctor had said to me, you can do all these things, I would have come out thought to myself, oh, well, that's not so bad then. So I try to tell people that life isn't over after the diagnosis. You are that same person. If you keep positive, if you keep active, if you keep doing all the things that you're doing, and as things change, get the support from your family and friends, then it's not going to be as bad as we think it's going to be. The other thing is that I did do, I might have mentioned, I don't know, that we kept quiet about it for the first 12 months. Silly thing to do. What I should have done is gone and told my friends and family, this is what I have, this is what has happened. I'm okay at the moment, but I might need some assistance later on. As things change, can you please change with me and we'll be fine. And that's what I would say to people. You know, when my father was diagnosed 25 years ago, the doctor said to him, I went with him, and I remember this just like it was yesterday. Well, Mr. Berry, he said, I'm afraid to tell you, you've got Alzheimer's. Oh, he said. So he said, you know, your life expectancy is whatever, and this is what's going to happen. Right, you are, I said. And the doctor said, you're fully understanding what I'm saying to you. I said, yes, absolutely. I can hear you and I can understand you. And have you any concerns? No, Father said, none whatsoever. He said, I'm going to let everybody else concern themselves with it, not me. And that was it. Well, what a positive attitude. And he walked out of that surgery as though nothing had happened. And I thought at the time, well, this is a bit weird. But I should have done the same thing when I was diagnosed. And why I didn't, I was too overwhelmed by the condition. I wasn't thinking straight. The condition was the biggest thing in my life. But in actual fact, my life was the biggest thing in my life. And that's what I should have focused on.
That's beautiful. There's one thing I think you mentioned in the story, and it maybe relates to what you're just saying there, which was definitely some people around you struggled with your diagnosis. You felt that you lost friends as a result of that diagnosis. Do you think maybe is that, looking back or thinking back to that now in hindsight, that difficulty that you had of processing it, do you think that's what other people found uncomfortable and then found difficult? If you had been able to be more, hey, this is what I got, I'm okay, but I might need some help, do you think that actually would have helped other people as well, as much as it shouldn't change that, but do you think that might have affected the people?
Yes, I think it do. And I think I was probably the... So we talk about the pebble in the water and the ripples. In actual fact, what I did is I made the ripples worse by not saying anything. And I should have realised that in actual fact, I was in control of how far they went to a degree. You see, the thing with the pebble is that when it's dropped in the water, i.e. me with D on it, I'm no different in reality. I'm just wet. Whereas everybody else has got the ripples, and the ripples are changing. Whereas the stone is just the same. It's just wet. So I could have been in control of that. I could have got people together and I could have said, this is what's happening. That way, what it would have done is taken their fear away, taken their worry away, taken their anxiety away. It would be, well, in actual fact, he's okay, whatever. But I didn't. I actually made the fire worse by feeding their anxiety and feeding it by not being myself. So I've learned a lot through that process. And I've got this great opportunity now and many other opportunities that we've had in the past, I think, to say to people, this is where I went wrong. Don't do that. You're better off to do this because it'll be a lot easier for everybody and for you.
Have you ever encountered an adult or child's behaviour that has felt difficult, overwhelming, or challenging? Have you sometimes felt at a loss of what to do, or know that you didn't handle it quite right? People are complex and unpredictable, and their behaviour can be like the weather. We've all made the mistake of looking out the window and feeling safe to wear shorts, but 5 minutes later wishing for an umbrella. But what if, like a weatherman, you understood how humidity, temperature and pressure all come together to cause the weather, allowing you to better prepare, predict and respond, and prevent ever having a picnic ruined by a thunderstorm ever again? My book, called Targeting the Positive with Behaviours that Challenge, helps you to become the weatherman of behaviour. It provides you with a toolkit to increase competency, confidence, resilience and empathy, so you feel more assured about how to respond to distressed or dysregulated behaviours in others, including those affected by trauma, mental health, neurodiversity, learning disabilities or dementia. Build better connections, achieve de-escalation and improve outcomes for yourself and those you engage with my celebrated 6-stage target model, a step-by-step process to reduce distress for everyone. Discover my empowering, person-centered guide in Targeting the Positive, written by me, Andy Baker, available from online bookstores worldwide. Find a link in the description and order today. So I want to come on to this, the external memory. So the term external memory, I think it is such a beautiful one. And I say, although there's maybe some slightly more derogatory versions of that, and referring to you as a USB stick, but can you describe what that looks like for you both, not just practically, but maybe in terms of trust and friendship?
Ooh, I think trust is a really important concept. And again, I talk about this in the second book. If you think Peter doesn't know much about me, he knows me, but he would be hard pushed to give 4 or 5 facts about me. Why does he trust me? What is it that I give off, or what is it I do that somehow resonates with him? So for me, being his external memory means not reminding him, because that's not the right word, but telling him, oh, today we're going to do this podcast with this guy called Andy. Knowing he won't remember, telling him again half an hour later, so don't forget to come to my house for 12:30. It feels a huge responsibility at times, but it also feels a huge privilege that somehow I've given Peter something he can trust without, he doesn't know why. It's an intuitive, emotional trust. And that's a real boost for me that I can provide that for somebody. So that's what it's like for me.
They say trust is a 2-way street, but for people like me, it's definitely a 1-way street. Somebody has got a stop board at one side and they're not letting you up the street. So you cannot remember about this person. But there's another person with a board and it says feelings on it this way. So the feelings are very, very strong. I feel that I can trust somebody. I feel that I can trust Deb. I know nothing about her, but I feel it. And feeling is something that this condition cannot touch. Feeling is locked up in a very safe place. So it can't be got at by dementia. And that's the bit that I work on. The idea of having a plug-in and save, again, it was something that I wanted people to be able to relate to. So whoever is with whoever who's got this condition, you can be their plug-in and save. It's not difficult. Yes, it's a responsibility, but dementia is a very complicated disease, and it's surrounded by simplicity. And if people like Deb simplify the world, then it makes that messy bit of dementia inside a lot less messier. So, yes, there is a responsibility to it, but it's like all these things. Once you do it on a regular basis, it becomes the normal thing to do. It's not something you have to work at anymore. In my mind, I spent all these years with my father, and reminding him of things just became a habit, just like not doing it became a habit. And over the time, I just found myself doing it and not realizing that I was doing it, because that's just how it was. And it works so very well.
When I said the responsibility, I don't mean that in a negative way, because I get something out of this friendship. So if I have to tweak the way we interact in order that Peter remembers things, that's fine, because what Peter gives back to me is equally important. So it kind of makes sense to be his plug-in and save device, so we can have a friendship based on trust and whatever else it's based on.
What you're really saying is you'd be lost without me.
I'm not sure I'm saying that exactly, but yes.
Oh, good. We've got that on tape now, so we're okay.
It's an unusual friendship, but it is. And I like to say,
but it works.
Shut up, I'm talking.
Okay, sorry.
I like to say it's a friendship lived like Peter lives his life in the moment. Peter can't refer back to, we had a great time yesterday, or we're going to have a great time tomorrow. But he can say, I am enjoying this, and that's what the friendship is. And I've tweaked my expectations so I can enjoy the in the moment as well.
There's something about that. You both kind of mentioned that, and there's a real resonance. And Peter, a little while ago, you mentioned that if there is anything positive that comes from dementia. And I think when we're thinking of, and this isn't to infantilize, and hopefully you take this the right way, there's something amazing about children, that children live in the moment, that they just experience life as it is. There is no expectations of what they're going to do when they grow up. You know, that's just a fancy, an idea. It doesn't really exist. And they're not that bothered about what happened yesterday. And I think there's a joy in that childlike nature that many human beings forget to engage in. And it sounds like maybe that's a slight gift that both of you received from the opportunity to be in that. I don't know whether I'm speaking out of turn, but hopefully
you're saying exactly the right thing. We have forgotten how to live correctly in my way. And when people try to react or interact, if that's the word, with people with memory issues, they find it extremely difficult. So what I have done is I come up with this idea which actually incorporates children. So I said that we can adjust our way of thinking all the while. We do it all the while. And if you have grandchildren come to stay with you, and they want to draw a picture, you get the paper and the crayons out, you draw a big sun and a mountain and a stick mummy and a stick doggy, and everything is out of proportion, and that's fine. You don't draw a Brunel's Bridge or Ely Cathedral, because the child couldn't relate to that. So we jump into that child's world, just like that. Yet, on the other end of the scale, we can't jump into somebody's world who has memory issues. But why not? Because we fill in the colour for children. If you're going along with your grandson and you see little Johnny from playgroup, you say, oh, look, there's little Johnny. You fill in the colour for that child. And yet we can't do that with an adult. We seem to distinguish, we can do it down here, but we can't do it for somebody who's older. Why not? It's exactly the same thing. The only difference is age. That's all there is in it.
But I think you're right. It's not infantilizing, and that's the danger I think people might fear.
Yeah.
It's just applying a bit of common sense.
Yeah. People with dementia have not got a childlike brain, but the actual mechanics of what you're doing is exactly the same. And you can just adjust that a little bit to somebody, you wouldn't say to somebody with dementia who is 60, oh, look, there's your friend Eddie. No, you'd say, oh, look, here come Eddie. In an adult way. And you're saying exactly the same thing, but you're expressing it just a little bit differently. And when you start saying these things to people, the penny drops. All of a sudden they think, well, yeah, that's not that complicated at all, is it? Why have I been doing this all wrong? What? It's so obvious, really.
But I think you're right as well about the joy of the moment. So things that we've done in that moment. So once Peter had the opportunity to fly a small plane after we did a talk.
Was that on my drugs run?
Also in the book. Now, in that moment, I saw his face when he landed. It was a moment. No more, no less. I don't expect him to remember, but he enjoyed that moment with as much enthusiasm as anybody else would have done. And that was the moment. The moment is everything.
It is.
And you talk about you don't make memories. You make moments.
I make moments.
Yeah. That's an important distinction.
People always say, we want to make memories with our loved one. No, you don't want to make memories with your loved one because you cannot. Yeah. You can make memories yourself, but what you need to do with this person who you love is make moments. That's the key thing. And also, when you start saying that, people then think, well, of course I do. What have I been doing? It's so... Dementia, as I said before, is so complicated that people look into the complicated mess that's dementia.
Yeah.
They never look on the outside bit, which is a simple part of it. And then somehow it makes the complicated mess a lot less complicated once you start working out the simple parts.
Love that. And it reinforces. So I've just been I'm just in the process of writing a book myself, my second book, and it's called The Adaptive Caregiver Model. And there's an analogy in there where I talk about when we're supporting a child to read, we don't take, if they're at the early stages and looking at the caterpillar books, we don't go, well, you should be reading Shakespeare by now. You just enjoy the books that they're reading in the moment. Then later on you adapt to where they are, and we find that easy with children, but it's exactly in reverse. So say not to infantilize, we're still dealing with an adult, but it's that being joy in the moment. So I'm really glad to hear that that's something important to you guys, because it feels like maybe I'm on the right track as well there. So now coming on to writing the book together, how did that make space for reflection, honesty, and definitely already gathered, and even humour while capturing something so complex?
Well, you very kindly say we wrote it together, and obviously we did because there's Peter's words there. But I guess I wrote it and ran things past Peter and his wife.
Yeah.
It gave me a huge amount to reflect on, because what Peter says, like we said earlier, resonates with all of us as human beings. Yeah. It was very emotional. It was very joyful. It gave me my sense of purpose. But Peter's never read or heard our book. And that makes me uneasy in a way. I mean, it's fine unless you read page 82. Don't read page 82. It's a very strange thing to write about somebody else without not acceptance, because we agreed we were going to write a book, but without constant knowledge. It's I found it an emotionally quite tricky thing to do, as I have the second book.
For me, I wanted the teaching, the words. I wanted what I said to be out there for a long while. That's what I wanted. I don't think in my mind, when I first started on this journey on my own and with my family, I never thought for 1 second that any of this would ever happen. Writing the books has never been about anything except for helping others to understand a bit more and having it written down in stone so that it can't be washed away by the tide of dementia is such a wonderful thing. And yes, I might have given Deb the gift of being able to write it, but she's also given me the gift of having it there for ever. And that, to me, is a wonderful thing to do.
Yeah, I think that's a beautiful thing about a book is that, it does live on way past where we do, no matter what, doesn't it? No matter what the journey to get there. And you did an amazing job, I think, the way that you put the words together from your point of view and doing your best to put it from Peter's point of view as well. I thought it was, is that how the second book's been written as well? Have you done it in a similar kind of narrative or?
Yeah, in a similar narrative. I've been a little bit more self-indulgent. There's a bit about me, only because my journey, Peter has enabled my journey. So
yes, of course.
Know where I was at and where I am now, but it is a similar structure. So for example, the tatty coat, through Peter's eyes, through my eyes. With his words sort of linking them.
It should all be about Peter. How dare you jump on his bandwagon?
The journey that he has enabled me to go on.
100%. 100%.
And we've done literary festivals, we've done conferences, we've been on TV, we've done radio interviews. That would not be me without him.
No, and it wouldn't be me without her. So, that's the beauty of it. And I often talk about support and care. Now, Debs doesn't really support me. I actually support her, and look after her, because bless her, she is old now. But,
and I do have a broken shoulder.
You do, yes. We don't go on about that.
Yeah.
We talk about support and care. Now, Debs, she does support me, and I support her. So we support each other. But this business of getting the right, and we're going to call it support for the sake of argument. I believe that if we are supported correctly, then care is a long way away and a very short part of our lives. Whereas it seems like that people are not supported well, support seems to be quite short, and then care seems to come quite quickly on its heels. And we all know that care is the end part, as far as I'm concerned. It is anyway. It's a care home. It's then that downhill spiral. But if we're supported right, maybe we could go on for 15 years, 20 years, or even longer before that little bit of care comes along. So, yes, she does support me, and also she doesn't support me. She's more of a support as a friend, which is different to the support from a wife or a husband. And I often say that I've got this dementia monster that I get away from, and I need to be myself and all of that sort of thing. But on the other flip of the coin, people like my wife, husbands, carers, wives, they all have their dementia monsters. Now, for my wife, it's me. So she needs to get away, which is where Deb and other people come to, because they can then do that, and these carers can have their own little life. Now, when I come back to my dementia monster, I can accept it better because I've been out. And it's exactly the other way around for them as well, because they can accept their husbands, wives, uncles, aunts, brothers, sisters, whatever they are, because they've been away for a while. It's all very important.
Yeah, it sounds like you've you've got a real empathy, not just towards, there's an empathy towards yourself and your own experiences and the challenges that you've overcome. But it sounds like you've also got this awareness of empathy towards those the dementia has affected as well. As you say, being mindful of how taking that time out isn't just good for you, but it's also good for others. And that's nothing negative about you. That's just that hey, we all need time off. We all need a reprieve or a break.
Yeah. Dementia is a little bit like that work colleague that you don't really want to spend the week with, but in actual fact, you haven't got much choice.
We've all known a few of them.
I couldn't say without talking to my legal team.
Well, Deb, so I know that obviously when you first came into this journey, you had no real knowledge or experience, particularly of dementia, did you? So I should imagine there's an awful lot you've learned about, because like for many people out there, their first idea of what dementia is, well, that's that memory loss thing. Has your idea of what a change in memory and how that affects a person's identity and communication, has that changed over your journey?
I think it has, and you're right, it's not just about memory, although with Peter it is predominantly about poor memory, but I've noticed over the last 7 years some things that Peter could do, maybe he can't do now. Sometimes he can, sometimes he can't. So it makes me realise that every day or every moment is different, really. You can't just apply this big stereotype to Alzheimer's. You have to adapt with it. You have to walk alongside with it, be one step ahead of it even, because what might be the case today with what Peter can or can't do or remember may not be the case tomorrow. So it has challenged all those preconceptions. So my elderly grandmother had Alzheimer's. That was it. That's all I knew. But I know that everyone's dementia is different. I know some people perhaps lose empathy and are aggressive. All I know is Peter, and I just see Peter, my friend, who's got a terrible memory. And if it's something he can't do, then we find a way around it. So I try not to let it impact on the friendship and the relationship. But I am aware of changes, but it is mainly around Peter's memory. I don't know if that answers the question.
Well, dementia is very much a moving target, and everybody's target moves at a different pace. So it's very difficult for the people around us to hit the bullseye, if that makes sense. The only thing that I think is that, and I don't know whether this really answered the question, but this is something that popped into my head, that because we as individuals live in the moment, then I think the people around us have to learn to live in the moment as well. Change every day, every hour, according to how that individual has changed. Is there any one fast fixed rule? Does anybody really understand what's going to happen tomorrow with this sort of thing? No. So I think my idea now is that with my father, I just evolved as his condition changed. And I learned to be very much a colourful chameleon, I suppose. And to every landscape that he visited in his head, I then changed colour to blend in with that landscape. And that was the only way that I could change with him. Does that make any sense?
That makes much more sense than the rubbish I came out with.
No, they were both great answers. They really were.
I tell you what, she's no good at all. But what it has done in terms of empathy or reflection is given me pause for thought about the things I get wound up about or annoyed about. And Peter often says, let it drift, you can't change people. And he's right. And that sort of wisdom has made me reflect on my life. And I still get wound up by some people, but not as much as I did. And I don't get as obsessed with worrying about the tiny things, because there is no point if we're to enjoy today.
Yeah, that's what that was a great answer from both you as well. And I think there's some bits in there that like if we just take memory, I think there's sometimes people don't understand the complexity of memory. Like I think there'd be people surprised, when they read the book about he's got dementia and he's cycling, and it's like, well, how does he remember how to cycle? How did he remember how to go? How does he remember what the word is? But it's like, well, this, and you also mentioned, Peter, earlier about the feelings still maintain, even if the certain memories don't. That's still memory, isn't it, in a way? So I think that's you've explored that beautifully as we've gone through the interview.
I think sometimes people think he hasn't got memory issues because Peter is articulate and fluent and witty in the moment. And I think that's not even you being a showman, that's you being Peter. And it's about changing people's perception. You can be all these things and have a memory condition. But when we go cycling, sometimes I've noticed Peter looks over his shoulder and he's surprised I'm there. If in the middle of nowhere, it's quite alarming because I've got no sense of direction. Peter won't remember where we're going, but if I keep saying we're heading to wherever, he'll know how to get there. So the memory is really complex, and these are long-term memories because he's worked around this area for so many years. They haven't gone. Your ability to ride a bike hasn't gone, to mend my punctures, to maintain my bike. None of that has gone. No. But 5 minutes ago it's gone.
Yes. Yeah.
So we're coming to an end of the conversation. I genuinely enjoyed it, and thank you so much both for your time. But finally, for anyone who's just received a dementia diagnosis or maybe is supporting someone who has, what message would you want to leave them with today?
I think the key thing is not to focus on the things that you can't do or that individual can't do. Focus on the things they can do well, because that will lift everybody's spirits. Tell other people what's going on. Don't keep it to yourself. Don't be afraid of what other people will think, what other people will do, because at the end of the day, you're important and the people really close to you are important. Other people, in actual fact, if people do drift away, it's their loss, not yours. Because the people who have drifted away from me, to be honest with you, I've forgotten about them. So they don't matter anymore. It's their loss that they're not in my world, not my loss that I'm not in their world. And to treat dementia as though it's something that has happened to you, but it's not something that possibly you might not die of dementia. You've been diagnosed with this condition. What's to say that you might have something else come to you? You're worried about what's going to happen to you in the future. If you hadn't been diagnosed with dementia, would you worried about going up the road and having a horrific car accident and dying? No, you wouldn't. So don't worry about the dementia. Just live each day as it comes and do the best you can with what you've got. And be happy. Smile about it. And if you forget to do something or you put the milk in the wrong place, you know what? It doesn't matter. It's a laughable thing, in my opinion. Make light of it if you can. And the same question to you, Deborah.
I don't feel I can answer that in the same way because I'm not living with the condition. But anyone who is with somebody or supporting somebody, just go with that person. Except they're not going to remember, maybe, and don't worry about why they don't remember. Work out ways of moving forward with them.
And one thing I will just add right quickly is that when my father was diagnosed, I never saw him as father with dementia. I didn't have a label on him. He was actually father. So if your partner, uncle, auntie, relation has got dementia, they're not Tom, Bob, Sandra with dementia. They are Tom, Bob, or Sandra. The dementia should come right at the bottom of the list of things. In actual fact, dementia is a little bit like the person who goes to the party. And if they don't turn up, it doesn't really matter. They're not that important. That's what dementia is in the actual invitation list, as far as I can see.
Beautiful, beautiful.
And that's why I can't top that.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So just would you mind reminding everybody what's the title and when's the new book coming out?
Well, the title, which Peter actually named the book, cue look of surprise, is Patching the Puncture, Continuing to Live Well with Dementia.
Yeah.
And it's published by the Book Guild, and it will be released on the 28th of February next year.
Fantastic.
So only 4 months.
Excellent. Very exciting.
I just reread the edited proof today. I have to say I'm thoroughly fed up with reading it, but I've made a good advert.
I was going to say,
No.
Can you?
It's a weird experience, isn't it? As an author myself, like I got so fed up with my own book. It's just, I'll just publish it as it is. I don't care anymore.
That is rubbish, and I shouldn't have said that, and I should have said that, and you can't do anything about it.
Absolutely.
You writers, you're a weird lot, you know.
Well, it's been an absolute pleasure speaking to you both. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I knew I was going to enjoy this conversation after reading the book. The personalities that come through in the book from both of you as well it was a joy to join you on the journey of, and I look forward to joining you on the journey of the next one as well. So, and thank you for sharing the journey with us.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity. It's been a pleasure.
Cheers. So for anybody watching the episode who's found anything we've spoken about meaningful or worthwhile, please reach out to Deb and Peter and make sure you check out their books. They genuinely are a pleasure. But otherwise, please like, comment and share. And especially anybody out there who's either living with the condition and maybe struggling, or somebody who's looking after somebody else, then please share it with them. There may be a little bit of hope in the conversation we've just had. Thanks.